Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, and we got a special episode today. Nintendo revealed a ton of new games today with their latest Nintendo Direct. We only had to wait nearly a year and a half for Nintendo to drop a new Nintendo Direct like this, but today it was jam-packed with new games to enjoy throughout 2021 and a few for 2022. In fact, if I counted this correctly, they had 32 games to show today. Yeah, there was a lot here. And there was a few major announcements here that's gonna break the internet, and some nice surprises along the way too. There was a nice mix of both, and we're gonna go over all of that today. I'll try to make this as quick as possible because I know your time is valuable, so I'll kind of focus on some of the bigger announcements first, and then later on in the video I will do a quick roundup of some of the more interesting announcements that might not get as many headlines. Also, we did get some big Xbox news today too that frankly is game-changing. I am going to talk about that later in the video as well, so make sure to stay tuned for that, or you can simply click on the timestamps below. Anyways, let's get right into it, starting off with a new Smash Bros. Ultimate reveal. We knew this was going to be there, but per usual, Nintendo surprised fans and does something just a little unexpected. They did announce some Xenoblade characters, and I have seen several predictions that Rex from Xenoblade 2 would make his way to Smash Bros. Ultimate, but actually it's not him. Instead it's Pyra and Mythra. Even Rex was a little surprised by this, as they kind of joked about how he thought he would be in it, but no, Nintendo went in a different direction. On one side of things, this is yet another sword character, or I guess you could say characters. What makes Pyra and Mythra interesting though, is that you can swap them back and forth in battle. It's not a simple skin change either, but it looks like their gameplay will change as you swap back and forth. I think that could be a lot of fun, and it separates them from other characters within Smash Bros. Let me know what you think of this addition though. I was kind of hoping for Crash Bandicoot myself, but even though this was surprising, I think it makes sense. Xenoblade is a Nintendo IP, and Xenoblade is a beloved franchise that continues to grow to this day. Pyra and Mythra will make their debut sometime in March. They also announced a new sports Mario game, Mario Golf Super Rush. And okay, that's a pretty cool release. I know not everybody loves golf per se, but Mario Golf is surprisingly a very good game, and we haven't seen one of these games in quite a long time. The last one released for the 3DS back in 2014, but we haven't seen a home console release since 2003 for the Nintendo GameCube. It's been a long time, and like I said, these are surprisingly really good games. Toadstool Tour for the GameCube was a lot of fun, and then Mario Golf for the Nintendo 64 was as well. So it's nice to see Mario Golf return again to a home console, or I guess this is actually a hybrid console, but it's coming with some interesting game modes. You have this really crazy speed golf mode where you can run across the course racing your competitors to score first. I think this is going to be a ton of fun, especially if you can play it in local co-op. They also revealed its story mode, which has you play as a Mii character, and then you interact with all of the characters within the Mario universe. Now, like I said, I know not everybody likes golf per se, but don't sleep on this game. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people when it does release. You know though, if Nintendo is going to bring back some of these Mario sports games, I'd like to see them bring back Mario Sluggers and Strikers. Both of those were a lot of fun for the GameCube. Hey, this is a start at the very least, and Super Rush will release on June 25th. Not too far away. The next big game that they announced though was Project Triangle Strategy, and JRPG fans are really going to like this one. You'll probably notice right away that this game has a similar art style to Octopath Traveler, and well, that's because this is their next game. Octopath Traveler was a huge success for the Switch, and a big part of that was the art style that they used, and they're bringing that back with Project Triangle Strategy. This is a different game entirely, however. This is not another game similar to Final Fantasy VI with turn-based battles. Instead, this is a tactical RPG similar to games like Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem. And I know Nintendo fans like Fire Emblem, so you might want to keep an eye out for this game. It looks like what they're trying to do though is create a heavy narrative game. The decisions that you make in this game will shape your own unique story, and that will be one of its main selling points. Now, I will say that I was not a big fan of Octopath Traveler's story. I think the gameplay was excellent and everything, but they're going to have to prove to me that they can shape a better story, especially for a game that they're emphasizing its story as being a main pillar. To be fair, Octopath Traveler had a few good singular stories in it, but it never really blew me away is all I'm saying. Maybe you feel different, but I am pretty confident that they will once again make another fun game from a gameplay standpoint. The cool thing is that you can actually download the demo for Project Triangle Strategy today. The final game won't release until 2022, but you can at the very least check this game out now and give some input to Square Enix, that way they can make the best possible game that they can by the time it officially releases. They did something very similar with Bravely Default 2, and it looks like Square Enix is treating this as yet another premiere release as they should be. This game really does look good from a gameplay standpoint, and I am hoping the story is just as good. Now, there were two major announcements here today, one being Zelda related, while the other was just completely unexpected. We'll talk about Zelda first, and this has been rumored since I want to say last August. A Zelda Skyward Sword retail listing popped up on Amazon UK, and if you've been following the channel for a while, you probably already know about this. Well, it's now official, Skyward Sword HD will be heading to the Nintendo Switch on July 16th. Now, I know this is not necessarily considered to be one of the best Zelda games, and I think a part of the reason for that was its controls. The entire game was centered around the Wiimote and motion controls, and not everybody liked that. I, for one, am not a fan of motion controls. It's just not my thing personally. If you like motion controls, more power to you. But what was so exciting about this announcement is that both types of fans will get exactly what they want. If you like motion controls, Skyward Sword HD will have that by using both the Joy-Cons detached from the Nintendo Switch. As for those who are looking for more of a traditional style game without motion controls, they completely reworked the game to make that happen. That's pretty awesome, and how they did this was by making the right analog stick control the sword. You can tilt the right analog stick in whichever direction you want to swipe your sword. This is a nice way of getting that more traditional style of gameplay, and I think a lot more people will enjoy Skyward Sword for this exact reason. For a franchise where almost every game is pretty much universally loved, Skyward Sword is the one that I think could improve the most. I do think more people will enjoy Skyward Sword this time on the Switch compared to the original release back on the Wii. Now, unfortunately, we did not hear about any other Zelda game here, though I wouldn't rule out more Zelda games being announced throughout 2021. They didn't actually mention Zelda 35th anniversary today, but I am still hoping we get some other Zelda games throughout the year. They did also reveal some new special edition Zelda Joy-Cons, which actually looks really good. With that said, however, I know a lot of you were looking forward to seeing Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 today, but unfortunately, that wasn't here. But they did reconfirm that Breath of the Wild 2 will come later this year, and we should expect some more information in the coming months. That is fantastic news. I know a lot of people were kind of concerned with Breath of the Wild 2 and thought maybe it could have been delayed to 2022, but it looks like they are committed to releasing it in 2021. There very well could be another Nintendo Direct to announce this and maybe some other games, so keep that in mind. And speaking of games that did not show up at this Nintendo Direct, Metroid, once again, is an absentee. I know a lot of people were hoping for Metroid, but it was not here. Now, I figured we weren't going to see a Prime 4, but I was hoping for a new 2D Metroid. What I wasn't expecting, though, was a new Splatoon game. Yeah, they revealed Splatoon 3. Now, if you remember at the beginning of last year, it seemed like Nintendo was teasing something Splatoon related. We talked about this last year, and I speculated that a new Splatoon was coming soon, or possibly a spin-off, but nothing really ever happened with that, or at least that I'm aware of. Maybe I missed something with that, but here we are with a full Splatoon sequel over a year later. We only got a short teaser trailer so far though, and a mysterious 2022 release date. Unfortunately, it will not be a 2021 release, but this is still absolutely massive. I don't think a lot of people are aware of this, but Splatoon 2 has sold nearly 12 million units. This is a sneaky popular game. There's not a lot of games that can sell 12 million units, but Splatoon 2 did. These are such unique games and a welcome addition to the Switch library. Splatoon is absolutely one of the best competitive games for the Nintendo Switch. They did, however, give a few new details on what to expect with Splatoon 3. It will have some new weapons such as a bow, new customization options, and new movement abilities will be returning to 4 vs 4 Turf Wars. We'll have to kind of wait and see more on that, but this was just an unexpected and very welcome surprise. I'm really glad Nintendo is making another Splatoon. It just really helps diversify their already strong lineup of games for the Switch. With most of the major announcements out of the way though, Nintendo still revealed a ton more, so I want to quickly highlight some of these games that they showed today. The popular platforming battle royale game Fall Guys will be coming to the Switch later this summer. That was a huge release for the PlayStation 4 last year, and I think Nintendo fans are definitely going to like this one. Outer Wilds was also announced as another summer release. I actually reviewed this game when it launched for the Xbox One a few years ago, and to put it short, this game is a masterpiece. It's like an adventure puzzle type of game with a fascinating world and narrative. I absolutely recommend you check that game out. It really is an amazing game. There's also some cool Japanese games here such as the Famicom Detective Club, Legend of Mana, and World's End Club. I know Trials of Mana fans will greatly appreciate Legend of Mana coming to the Switch, and that releases on June 24th. Really, any old school JRPG fan will like this release, but World's End Club caught my eye because this is coming from the Danganronpa creators. Now, I am a big fan of Danganronpa. I love these games on the PlayStation Vita, so hearing this is coming from them has me very excited for the story. I don't know about the gameplay per se just yet. I'm optimistic about it, but it is a 2D type game, which is definitely not what I would have expected, but I'm hoping the narrative is strong much like Danganronpa. Luckily, we won't have to wait too long to find out as it will be available on May 28th. Saga Frontier Remastered will also be coming on April 15th, and actually we got a few ports here to talk about. Those Ninja Gaiden leaks were true after all. Ninja Gaiden Master Collection is coming on June 10th, and then you have Tales from the Borderlands and Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville in March. So yeah, there was a lot here at this Nintendo Direct. I know a lot of these announcements are not mind-blowing or anything, but I think Zelda Skyward Sword and Splatoon 3 in specific really made this into a great event. Everything else here was just icing on a cake, and there's a lot to look forward to. Let me know though what you thought about this Nintendo Direct. Did you like what they showed today? And also, what are you looking forward to the most that they revealed here? Now, even though most of this episode was dedicated to the Nintendo Direct, there was actually one more big reveal today that was made by Xbox. So before we go, we have to talk about this because this is huge. We did talk about this rumor a few days ago, but it's now officially confirmed. Xbox has somehow managed to double the frame rate for backwards compatible games on the Xbox Series, or in some cases, can even quadruple the frame rate. This is game-changing and could ultimately end up being a system seller. I mean, there are some great games available for the Xbox One that will get a huge boost in performance for the Xbox Series, and that cannot be underestimated in how important it truly is. I think we're seeing that early in this generation and how much better 60 frames per second is than 30 frames. And these last generation games will continue to sell. This is a very different generation than the past, where a lot of these old games will continue to do well as they're on the storefront digitally, and they still look good to this day. The big difference right now for a lot of these games is actually frame rate, and Xbox is fixing that with this new FPS boost mode. So to see some of these great games get boosted to 60 frames per second or even 120 frames is absolutely amazing. Now with that said, Xbox won't be able to do this with every single game. They've only announced a few so far, and all of these will be available today. This includes Far Cry 4, Watch Dogs 2, New Super Lucky's Tale, Sniper Elite 4, and UFC 4. It seems like they're going to treat this similar to what they did last generation with backwards compatible games. They'll kind of slowly add in new games over time. How they're doing this though is that the technique that they're using can push game engines to render more quickly, giving them that buttery smooth experience that the Xbox Series is capable of. This does not require developers to do any extra work, and what makes this even better is that all of this will come absolutely free, and users will not be required to pay for a quote-unquote HD remaster. This is just amazing for Xbox fans, and this is incredibly exciting. I'm already ready to see what games they'll boost next. This goes without saying, but the backwards compatible team for Xbox, I mean, they are technical wizards. I don't know how they're doing it, but this is absolutely, this really truly is amazing. They've done an extraordinary job, and with things like auto HDR and now FPS boost mode, Xbox Series is the best place to play a lot of these old multi-platform games. They did also note that games using auto HDR and FPS boost mode will also have icons showing they're enabled. I imagine if you really want, you can turn them off, but this really is groundbreaking, and I have to applaud the Xbox team for their continued efforts towards backwards compatibility. On to the poll of the day though, I asked you all if Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart was enough for you to buy a PlayStation 5. This is the first PS5 exclusive developed by a PlayStation first-party studio, and from what I've seen, it looks really good. Insomniac Games, of course, is very talented, and this is a beloved franchise, but even then, it seems like this will not be enough for most of you to buy a new console. 75% of you said that no, this will not be enough. Looking through the comments, a few of you noted that you're waiting for God of War or Horizon in specific, and some of you mentioned that you need more than one game to buy a new console. And then quite a few of you mentioned the $70 price tag turned you off. I know the Ratchet & Clank reimagining for the PS4 was $40 at launch, so it being $70 on the PS5 is probably surprising for a lot of fans. So, I get that. I do think it will be a lot bigger than the PS4 title though, especially in quality. I really like Ratchet & Clank myself, but I was not a big fan of the reimagining on the PS4. It looked amazing and everything, but it wasn't really my favorite in the franchise. That still goes to crack in time for the PlayStation 3, but I am definitely looking forward to Rift Apart. I think it looks great personally, but I do understand where you all are coming from. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.